It's the only wrestling podcast on earth yet to be future endeavored by the WWE. We're yet again survived the cuts. We've got a lot to talk about here on the wrestling perspective. But first, let me introduce the casting characters. First, he's won 4 Stanley Cups. He's yet to be released from the WWE. He is the number 1 fighter in my heart and in your life. That's Darren McCarty.
What's up, fellas? Nice to see you. Thank you.
This guy is a playoff coach, a prima donna. He shows up when he wants. He says, fellas, I can only do 30 minutes because I am a high school head coach. I am a 2-time MLB All-Star. I am a comeback player of the year. And when I say we record, that's the meat hook. Darren, you introduce him.
Hey, I hate that introduction right there because I am a team player and I heard a bunch of I. Don't appreciate that.
We're sorry, playoff coach. We are so sorry. He has won yet again 2 X Division championships. He's the man behind the man at Impact Wrestling. He's my best friend and yours. That's Petey Williams.
Now, how's she going, eh?
Pete, let's introduce the 5th guy to the club here. He's been rocking your balls off all over the world since the early 90s. One of the innovators of punk music in my mind, a guy who I remember spending $19.95 on his CDs back when they were way overpriced CDs. That's Lars. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Lars. Whoa. Come on. You can't lie. I mean, remember when CDs were like $20? Yeah, I do.
Check it out, bro. Our shit was so good it never made the Super Saver bin. Okay.
That's good.
Ticking time bomb, baby.
That's right. That's Lars.
I appreciate your $20 because with that $20, I was able to buy some cut up watermelon 25 years later and use it as a water.
$20.
Can I do Dennis's intro today?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And the man behind whatever the heck we got going here at Wrestling Perspective Podcast. He is undisputed fantasy football, ESPN, you name it, he can do it. And if you're not sure, just ask him. He'll tell you. He is the one and only Dennis Farrell.
Yeah, good intro.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. We have a lot to talk about. Let's go right off the rip. This new round of WWE releases. And before we started recording, and I think before you popped in, D-Mac, I said I can make a case for each one of these guys should have been released. Not they don't deserve, but should have been released by the WWE. And you know what? Each one of these guys are going to be all right. I'm not one of those guys that are like, oh, this guy deserves to be released. But first and foremost, let's start with this. Are you shocked by any one of these guys?
I was shocked at, well, it is, but it's not because it's WWE, right? So last minute changes, but the fact that the Dark Father with Aleister Black and just, you know, I think it was just behind the scenes. I think the stuff with hearing about Liv Morgan, she retiring, well, that explains the Riot Squad. And this time around, you look at like Buddy Murphy, everybody there, there's a promotion that they're going to scoop them up like that, or there's matches out there that now can happen, especially with what we're seeing. The one thing I mentioned before, which I always ask Petey, is, Petey, did you know that Leo Rush was going to be? And he said no, but the fact that was the surprise entrance in the Battle Royal. But that just goes to show you, because we just saw him wrestling at New Japan. So, you know, the Forbidden Door, these guys are probably, it's a blessing in disguise. I think Braun Strowman, it was his contract, because, you know, arguably making over $1 million. And if the WWE is going to sell, which this is absolutely, it's almost like Vince is too old to fight anymore. And this looks even more like he's going to sell WWE. So it's better for, in the long run, what I like, and that's the wrestlers having more say in the craft that they're in. So to me, it's a blessing for these people.
Pete?
You know, the speculation, I mean, is he going to sell it? I've never thought I would see this day. I really didn't. Like, everybody's talking about, like, oh, you know, Vince will, you know, run this company until first off, they say Vince will never die. But if he does die, he'll run this company until, he is dead. I don't know if it's going to sell. I don't know what he would do with his life after he sold this company. I know there's a lot of speculation, but all the the evidence points to, they're going to sell. I don't know if that's going to happen. A lot of big time superstars got released, like a lot of big names, usually like historically people that get released that are big names like that, like a Braun Strowman that's making like, in the 7 figures. It's because they did something. They got in trouble with the law or some sort of, wellness violation, something that's not just like, hey, we got to do a budget cut. So all of this is a shock to me. And it just goes to show that nobody's safe, because we all know, like we've read it over the years, like how much they've pushed Braun Strowman, how much, like remember at first, like he wasn't getting over and we're like, and it took a long time for him to get over and they finally got him over. But now like it goes to show that the machine is behind him. And then all of a sudden it's like, yep, we got to cut you. Like, it's so bizarre to me. I've never seen anything like this before.
Mitri, what do you think, bud?
I'm looking at it from a standpoint of rebuilding and WWE getting rid of a lot of established guys, kind of saturating the market with former WWE guys. Maybe they have something brewing that they're going to have new stars emerging. I don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at it from a standpoint of a baseball team, and they want to rebuild, so they'll cut their losses, make trades or whatever, in this case, releases. And getting rid of big names like a Braun Strowman. That surprised me. I'm not the biggest fan of Braun Strowman, but to see him released, that's shocking. I mean, he was just in the main event getting ready to go up against Bobby Lashley, and the next thing you know, that to me makes no sense. And then with Aleister Black, he was just on TV kicking Black Mass and Big E, and now he's gone. And then Ruby Riott and Lana. You kind of expected Lana since Rusev's now Miro and kicking tail in AEW, but I'm kind of looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the reasons why you feel that every guy deserves to get released, because it has to be something other than my say with rebuilding. It could be what D-Mac said, it could be what PD said, it definitely could be what Lars is about to say.
Lars, I'll let you go before I throw my opinion out.
Well, some of them I totally understand. Velveteen Dream. I wish my man would just keep his cock in his pants, and he would be a fucking superstar. You know what I mean?
That's the punk version.
Yeah, I love that guy, and it sucks because it's just like some people, whatever, it doesn't matter, but like I love him. I love watching him. I think he's one of the best performers. I think he's one of the best sellers, and I think he just gets in too much drama. Same with Lars Sullivan. But then I look at like a Ruby Riott or a Braun Strowman, and I kind of honestly am happy that they got let go, because I really think that a Ruby Riott is going to do so much better, like in a place like Impact. I think that's kind of like, I would hate to kind of see her go to AEW. I'd love to see her go to Impact and really take over there. I think she's got a cool look. I think like there's so many possibilities that you could do with her. So I'm kind of happy for her in a way. She might not feel that way, but
hey, real quick, I think she's dating Jake something.
Oh, really?
Ruby Riott. She's not?
Man, I don't want to get into it right now.
All right, keep going, Lars.
I can see like a Braun Strowman like going to an AEW. You know what I mean? I think, a lot of these guys, I don't like you said, Dennis. I don't think they're going to be out of work that long. There's some people, obviously, I think that like, I'm kind of just scrolling down, the list. And other than Aleister Black, and obviously the biggest one is Daniel Bryan. And, we're seeing everybody kind of come into AEW, and we're seeing AEW like just hired Mark Henry, right? So, and if you think about it, they're sort of tightening the screws on that show, you know, because that's why you would hire a guy like Mark Henry, who's obviously got a very knowledgeable wealth of knowledge of the business. So, you know, I don't really see these guys being jobless, whether or not the WWE sells or not. I'm sure it's going to come with a caveat that either Triple H or Stephanie's running the place or something like that. So, which I think that they have, you know, and honestly, like if Triple H and, you know, was to run the main shows, I think we would have better wrestling. So, you know, I don't.
NXT's pro.
Exactly. So it's like, I don't know. The WWE is just, it's not the as I was listening to the radio today, two guys talking about it, and they saying that it's sort of lost its cool factor, and I think it has. So honestly, like you know, not that it's a sinking ship, but whatever. Go ahead, Dennis.
I think there's such a log jam of talent, and we've said this before on past shows that WWE from Raw to NXT has the greatest talent ever assembled on any roster anywhere. You take each one of the shows, it's just the greatest talent. We can all agree to that. But at some point, you have to cut talent to bring up the younger folks. What was the last thing Braun Strowman really did a note that sticks out in your mind? For me, it was when they overdid his strength with Roman Reigns in 2020, early 2020. That was before the pandemic too, when we had fans in the stadium and he's flipping cars. Ever since then, he's just been a big guy. He's been a guy they throw in the matches that maybe throw off the ending. He hasn't had any notable runs. To me, he's going to be the Drew McIntyre of this group, where he goes off, grows, and he comes back as a better wrestler in the WWE. I don't think I see any of these other people with that kind of potential to come back better, because a lot of them are already at the top of their game. But for me, Braun Strowman is going to be the Drew McIntyre of this group. I don't think his story is done in the WWE, but he has a lot of growing. We've heard from some of the dirt sheets early on about how he was late for meetings and it derailed his title run here and there. That's all young person stuff. And each one of you guys, whether you're in a band or in a locker room, has seen that young guy that may have taken his opportunity a little bit to an advantage. And whether they send him down or release him, he comes back a little bit later, more mature and more humbled. And I think that's what's going to happen with Braun Strowman.
Yeah, well, you got to remember with Braun, he like right during the pandemic, WrestleMania 36, the last one during the pandemic, he was like, he won the title. I don't remember which one, the Universal or the WWE title, but
it was the Universal. It was like more of a squash match too.
Yeah, was it Goldberg at that time? Yeah. So he was the guy, right? And then I think Roman Reigns had won it from him, and he's had it ever since. So Braun, like, recently has been like a big, like, marquee guy. And just this past WrestleMania, he was wrestling Shane McMahon in that cage match.
Well,
so
I guess you can't throw the boss's kid off the cage. I mean, it's bad things happen.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really like that one is surprising to me just because how hard they pushed him, like how much steam they had behind him, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's gone. Like usually when you release somebody, it's like, we got nothing else for you. He could have been that guy, even if they had nothing for him. He could have been that next big show where it's like, you know, he just he's that next guy to get the other guy elevated to the next level, like that guy that he beats. So it's just really surprising. Like,
but that's a very expensive setup guy. That's, you know, Braun Strowman was making several millions of dollars. That's, if I'm paying a wrestler millions of dollars, I don't want him to be the setup guy to get the next guy to the level. I want him to be that guy. And that's where I kind of disagree with you, Pete.
So you're saying, Dennis, that it's Braun Strowman's fault that he got cut, or that because I always, when it's WWE, it's like handcuffed, in my opinion, you know, because if you don't succeed, it's because they, you know, whatever else like in this case with Braun Strowman, it's like they just wash their hands with him because the money or whatever. Priorities, it changes. It's just
but
weird how it changes so quick.
With Braun, like a lot of these guys that get over, like a Daniel Bryan or like even an Aleister Black or whatever, they organically get over. It's like, their talent and all that kind of stuff. Like the fans just get behind him and get over. Braun wasn't like that. If you remember, like when he first started with the Wyatt family and even, them trying to push him on a singles, it wasn't working. And then eventually, like, I don't know what happened with the fans were like, okay, yeah, we'll get behind him. But so his wasn't an organic push. So he definitely had all the power behind him. So they can pull the rug from underneath him if they want. And that's apparently what they did by releasing him.
Apparently my take is embarrassingly clueless. And I'd love to know more about that, by the way, because what have I said that was wrong about Braun? Braun is a phenomenal athlete. I think he just needs to grow up. He's still a younger guy in the wrestling world. And look at Drew McIntyre. This is kind of the same thing that happened to Drew McIntyre in his early run in the WWE. He had an inflated ego. Yes, Lars.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I don't think from the very get-go, like Petey just was saying, I feel like they never really got close on really how to push this guy and present this guy. I almost felt like a little bit later on, he became like Zeus against Hulk Hogan. Was it Sylvester Ritter? Was that his name?
Tiny Lidster or something?
Tiny Debo from Friday.
Debo.
Who's Sylvester Ritter?
That's Junkyard Dog.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And the Junkyard Dog got us to saw what in the
Well, same with Zeus too. He gone too.
Right. So, but like I always felt like they kind of did that a little bit to him. You know what I mean? He was, I don't know. I just think that the way he was presented and always was sort of put out there, never really, I don't know. It just never seemed to fit. It seemed like I'm hoping, like you said, Dennis, and I think you're freaking right. And whoever said that you were clueless, I saw the comment, but you're not, because I think he's going to go out and find himself. And like every great wrestler, and I think Braun has the ability to be like a great wrestler, he's going to go find it. He's going to go to these other companies, Impact or AEW, and he's going to be able to be creative. And unless this guy's shit for brains, which I don't think he is, he's going to come back and he's going to be bigger and better. Watch. And I think to your point,
Lars's point, to Dennis's point, I think in some sports, right, the bigger guy takes longer to develop. If I would agree with Dennis, out of anybody that's been released, to be able to have a Drew McIntyre like revival or go find himself, it would be Braun Strowman, because he's already sort of somewhat of the way there. So it'll and to Lars's point, it'll prove whether he's this big dummy that the McMahons play him out to be, or he's more than that. So it'll be a great opportunity for him.
Pete, you being backstage, wrestling and wrestling psychology, and big man wrestling psychology is way different than any other regular wrestling psychology. What can you throw in on this before I throw it to Young and we wrap this segment up?
First off, WWE's really good at presenting big men. I mean, they're probably the best company in the world to present big men. That they do that very, very well. A lot of the times, when you go to other places, sometimes it's the big man's fault because they want to go doing cool stuff. They're like, I don't want to just be a big man. I want to do like spots, because they're like, I'm athletic. I want to show my athleticism. So sometimes it's their fault too. Like I look at somebody like William Morrissey, Big Cass, right? He's back at Impact now. He's the biggest guy on our roster. And I feel he's got that Drew McIntyre esque thing that we're all talking about right now. Like he's really changed himself. If you guys have been watching, he's in better shape than he's ever been in. He's on top of his game. His matches are good and stuff like that. And sometimes it's detrimental when you're a big man because you're limited, like you're limited to the sense that, oh yeah, I can't bump for this little guy, and wrestling has turned into a smaller guy's sport. Like somebody like me, I could only be a referee back then, maybe not even a referee, right? Like there was no such thing as like cruiserweights or anything. So big guys, like they want to show, And sometimes it's like the selfish aspect in it. Like they want to show that they're athletic and they can do all the spots too. But like a Brian Cage, for example, he's super athletic. But sometimes it's like, hey man, it doesn't make sense if you like are going like doing a standoff spot with like a Rich Swann or something like that. The size difference just doesn't make sense. But I think they instilled so much in Braun's brain that, hey, you're the big man. And I think he knows how to wrestle like a big man. I think he's going to do just fine on the indies or wherever he goes. He's going to, I do believe that he's going to reinvent himself.
Dimitri?
Maybe WWE's trying to saturate the market with all ex-WWE guys. And maybe if AEW jumps all over that, you know, all their champions, if you notice, except for the women's, have been former WWE guys. And that's the one thing that's always been thrown out there, that they can't create their own talents. They have to use former people from WWE to further their growth as a I'm just being devil's advocate. This is what I'm seeing.
I'm going two things with that, D, is I think that's what WCW did wrong, is like hoarding too much talent, whatever. And AEW's sort of aware of that. But also, too, who won the Battle Royal? Their homegrown kid, right?
Jungle Boy.
So I think that everything you're talking about, D.
Most importantly,
what?
Most importantly, who predicted that?
Lars.
Yep. That was your pick to win.
Great call, because it makes sense about, you know, you're talking. This goes back to our conversation about Orange Cassidy, about the face and stuff like this. Well, there's Jungle Boy, and they create. I think if you watch his progression and stuff like that, is exactly, they're aware of that you're saying. Like I'm sure that whether it's Cody and Khan and Jericho, all these WWE guys that have come there they know the ins and outs of how Vince is going to play or whatever like this. They're aware of it, and as long as it's still like the wrestler's promotion, or even in Impact, or even in the independents, where guys are, like Petey just said, can create their own way. They're, you know, more than being pigeonholed into it. And if they go back to WWE at any time, it's usually the second time they know what they're dealing with, and it's on their accord, and they have more power, right? Because you got to have the power play with Vince. Once you have that.
And to wrap this segment up, DNS this question: do you think wrestlers find their love and passion in other companies ever want to go back to the WWE? And I think absolutely, WWE is still a payday, and I would say any wrestler that has WWE on their resume make more money on the indie circuit when they go back. So I think now, and I think we've talked about this on many episodes, WWE is no longer that desired landing spot, because that's the NHL, the MLB, the big, you know, Lollapalooza of the wrestling companies, but it's now the payday to launch them into more money going forward. Any wrapping up on this thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think like I look at John Morrison, for example, because he was with Impact, right? He left WWE years prior. He reinvented himself. He was wrestling, you know, Lucha Underground, doing the Impact stuff, and just like really killing it everywhere he went. He was like the hot guy in the indies and stuff. And then at the end of the day, when his Impact contract was up, you know, we all knew he was going back to WWE because they were paying him like money that he couldn't turn down. And it's like, you know, you get to that age where you're like, yep, I had my fun. I did what I wanted to do. You know, I showed that I can be a star outside of WWE and reinvent myself. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to, you know, kind of invest in my retirement now. And that's what he did. So yeah, absolutely. That question right there. Yeah. They aspire to go back to WWE, I believe, if for a different reason, not to build themselves. Now it's more like, hey, I want to retire.
Got to build a new deck. So I'll go sign there for 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. Double Nothing was this past weekend. I'm sure we all watched it or saw the reviews. We had the review show, which went over. Huge thank you to everybody who stopped in and gave their opinions. And by the way, if you're in any of the chat rooms, we still want your opinions on what you thought about the AEW Double or Nothing show. We'll start with you, D-Mac. Overall view and thoughts on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a solid 8. I think I kept thinking about I thought the card was great from Hangman and Kate from the opening match, the D match, all that stuff. I thought it was great. I thought I was thinking of Lars or thinking of you, Dennis, when we were talking about I hope the Stadium Stampede match isn't like a bit of a joke, but the Urban Meyer stuff and what I enjoyed it for what it was. You know what I mean? It was what it was, and the way they repelled in, and watching all the different stuff. Obviously, you were talking about making homegrown guys. That was made to to push Sammy Guevara getting the pin on Spears and stuff like that. So I think they're all aware of it, and I think I was fully entertained. Throughout the throughout the card, obviously the outcomes, the endings, the Don Callis pulling with Orange Cassidy off of Kenny Omega, like just the little things, all the shenanigans, Frankie Kazarian coming out to stop the Good Brothers, I love all the little storylines. So it made me want to watch Monday and watch BTE and watch Sammy's vlog and watch everything I could to see the behind the scenes of what went on. So I was thoroughly enjoyed.
Cohen, sorry. I was going to say, Cohen, we'll get to your question about Slammiversary here in a few. D-Mac, finish up your thought.
No, that was pretty much it. I'd give it a solid 8.
Lars, what did you think? Because the Stadium Stampede, I could have gone either way on. It was heavily recorded, as they said in the coming days. I think it took them 4 days to record it. And then they had the live finish in the ring. What'd you think?
I mean, honestly, I thought it was a great show. I think there was so many cool moments, and that they capitalized on. I'm loving Mox coming out to Wild Thing, and just there was so many things about it. Watching Hangman, and the pop that he got, what I mean. That was pretty massive for him, and he was one of because he's like one of their guys. You know what I mean? I think the crowd understood that. I think Sting, obviously the crowd chanting "You still got it" and all that, and just I thought it was electric. And as a fan, I'm with D-Mac. I'll give it about an 8.
Pete,
so great card, top to bottom. Just I'll nitpick a little bit. I just said great card, top to bottom. Just the placement of the card. I mean, I don't know what match I would have put first. I guess Adam Page and Brian Cage was a good call. That was my sleeper pick to be like match of the night. I didn't know if it was gonna be match of the night. I wish they had a little bit more time just to go out there, a couple more false finishes and stuff like that. With what was the next match? Like the Young Bucks and Mox and Eddie. Like, I don't know why they would put that second. I think at that point I may have put the Battle Royal or even like the Cody and Ogogo match. But that I feel like the Bucks and the Mox and Kingston match was match of the night. Everything else was solid top to bottom. My predictions, totally wrong. I think I got maybe 2 or 3 right or whatever. I totally misinterpreted what they were going for and everything, which is great. I love to be surprised and be like, oh wow, they're doing this instead. So yeah, I mean, I would give it an 8, definitely.
I can't complain with those rankings. I think it was a great card, top to bottom. All the matches I felt like I was invested in. The Stadium Stampede, although I could nitpick it and say I didn't like it, I think there was just enough comedy. It didn't go over the top like last year's did. I didn't sit there and go, this is supposed to be a blood feud. What's going on here? There were a few cute moments. I love seeing Conan as the DJ. That popped me a little bit. That it was good to see Conan back and looking pretty good there. The Urban Meyer, there's a question what we thought about Urban Meyer. I think that was great kind of product placement. I mean, if you have a brand new head coach on an exciting team who had the first overall pick, you have the Stadium Stampede in that stadium, why wouldn't you want to highlight some of your football talent on the show to maybe try to cross promote the two brands? So I didn't really have too much of a problem with that. And Jericho being the face, why wouldn't Urban Meyer help him out? So I thought there was enough seriousness in that match to overshadow the little bit of comedy they put in to break it up. So I think I was happy. And
anybody else impressed on Jericho's freaking? He has his arm there. He was slinging that football at friggin' MJF. He he didn't hold back, but that was a tight ball that he threw before he hit him with the computer.
Yeah.
And you notice babyface Jericho asked for permission. Can I use that computer, please? All those, I think Lars nailed it, right? Because there was so many little things, and I think the crowd, man. I can't wait, Petey, till you get to perform in front of like a big crowd again, and because that was, I think, the enjoyment of all of it, which sometimes in the lull of a show or whatever, it kept you in because there was always something different. Like you said, to see Sting out there at 62 still doing it, you know what I'm saying? Like, God, that's inspiring.
And he looked great, but you know, one thing I will say is like, as many opportunities that they capitalized on, I thought that Cody Rhodes match, it could have gone so much better. And I really honestly think that he should not have won that match. And I think a lot of people, when we were talking about this, or if he did win, then maybe Ogogo, gets a kendo stick and just beats the holy hell out of him. Like,
gets his heat back. Yeah.
There should have been some sort of answer, and then come, and do his thing. But other than that, and I think that the Serena Deeb match probably shouldn't have been a pre-show thing. I mean, there were some things that, like, I'm not running the show though. So it's like, but as like a fan and, just doing this with you guys, you kind of look at it at a different way, with a different set of glasses, so to speak. So I don't know, but like, I think there was a few things that they could have done maybe better. I was really stoked to see Jungle Boy do it. You know what I mean? That was pretty cool.
I will say this. You could have put Anthony Ogogo into your top 5 company heels if he would have went over on Cody on Memorial Weekend with the red, white, and blue and the American Dream. And this guy just beats Cody. And then we call him the American Crusher or something. That would have put this guy into the main event picture, unless he's not ready for it. And there's nothing worse than elevating a guy too soon. And last show we talked about waiting too long. And Pete, you've been on many shows where they might have pulled the trigger a little too soon on a guy who maybe has the fans behind him or the heat behind him, but doesn't have the in-ring talent to back up the push to the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it might be in his case, because everything was pointing to, and I think all of us picked Ogogo to win. I don't know who picked Cody.
I think some of us picked Cody.
Yeah.
I think I might have picked
Yeah.
I picked Ogogo because I'm like, it just made sense. I'm like, they're really putting over his gut punch, and like, I'm like, why? But maybe this is the, WWE style, like Cody Rhodes, the Hulk Hogan, and then they push whatever heel that they want to push just so that the Hulk Hogan could go over on him. So maybe they did that on purpose to like, hey, let's build up this guy so that Cody could go over on him. Maybe that was their strategy. Maybe they made a decision like, yeah, he's not ready yet. Let's not push him yet.
I might have waited for this matchup, maybe a year down the line when Gogo's a little bit more seasoned, because this had huge feud written all over it if you did it right. And especially when he throws out the American Dream moniker, I thought that was a special moment that should have been saved to really highlight a feud and put it into just the perspective of, this is it. I'm breaking out my dad's, surname to really hammer this rivalry home. And it almost felt flat leading up to it. But if Ogogo would have won, I think it would have meant more for Cody breaking out the name, for Cody wearing the red, white, and blue, everything leading up to it. I don't know if Gogo's ready or not. I'm a fan of his. I like what he's doing. And I really thought if Anthony would have won this match and then went back into his American hating things, I crushed your AEW American hero thing, it would have put him up there with MJF.
I agree, and that's like the thing, I really feel like just with all the I don't know if Cody's the symbolism with the American Dream, the red, white, and blue. Then you got the Memorial Day, even though we were allies. I mean, it might have been better for July 4th, honestly, but
Yeah, and people in the chat room, I think Gogo needed more of a build-up. I mean, for me, I would have forgotten the build-up if that finish of the match was different. I think that was one of those things where the finish could have overshadowed the build-up and made you believe it was bigger than it really was.
Yeah.
No, I agree with everything. Like, man, sometimes it's really tough. Like, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know if he's got heat or anything like that, or it's just that maybe they're kind of building him up. They were building up as a monster, like, that gut punch, all that kind of stuff. And maybe they're like, you know what, this isn't the direction we want to go with him. Let's give him a loss. And then maybe that lights a fire under him more to be even more of a monster kind of deal. Like, he can't handle this loss. I don't know. So, I mean, we'll see on Friday when, during Dynamite, see what happens.
And by the way, let's transition. Is there anything else from the show that we need to bring up? No?
No, I don't think so. Other than all my predictions were wrong.
Yeah, that you were not very right. I'm not turning for help in any prediction polls from here on out, Pete.
Well, I think I got 3. I got 4 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Actually, I got half of them right, but still. And something like this, I'm expecting more of 8 out of 10.
So were we.
Yeah.
I'd be honest. I was a little disappointed.
You're the professional. I mean, you're the professional wrestler, Pete. You sort of you let us all down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. It's my fault.
You're the Anthony Ogogo of this podcast.
Yeah.
And by the way, I do want to touch on this. AEW got some heat going into this pay-per-view based off their ratings for their Friday night show. And by the way, I do want to give a shout out because I play this nerdy card game and a couple guys are watching it, the WWE Supercard. And I want to give a shout out to a couple guys that are actually watching the stream for the first time. So thank you guys so much. And by the way, if you don't play WWE Supercard, you should. It is a fun, nerdy, good game that you would enjoy. All right, back to the ratings. And I saved a photo here because WWE was getting, or not WWE, but AEW was getting some heat based off what their ratings were. And here's one of the tweets. AEW, there was a report that Dynamite drew 500,000 viewers, down by 38% last week, going up against WWE SmackDown. A 38% drop is huge. But in the defense of AEW, and by the way, we don't love AEW more than WWE. We don't hate WWE more than anyone else. So I think we're wrestling fans here. And to say that the Dynamite took a huge ratings hit because it went up against SmackDown, I don't think it was fair. You're going into the first holiday weekend where you can go out without masks and live life. I think that was more of a case of people were going to live lives than stayed in on a Friday night to watch Dynamite. And to catch EMAC up, we're basically talking about the drop in viewership for Dynamite moving to Friday night versus SmackDown, heading into a holiday weekend on the eve of, I guess, the go-home show for their Double or Nothing.
I don't put too much stock into that. Like you said, Dennis, we're coming out of a pandemic, like something that the world hasn't known, just the wrestling world. So let it permeate just like anything else, just like NXT moving to Tuesdays, Impact moving to Thursdays. Let everybody settle in a little bit because your viewership's changed a little bit. And as wrestling fans, we got to get on board. But, I think a lot of it today too is I watch a lot of it after the fact. I'd rather sit down and watch a couple episodes and fast forward through some of the parts I don't like, but you get the gist of everything. So I think it goes with how we can get all of our wrestling information these days. It's just not A, B, and C. There's a whole friggin' different alphabet and everything.
Yeah, and I think another thing with the drop in the ratings is you got to remember what night is AEW on historically.
Wednesday.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden you're going to switch nights. I mean, yeah. And Friday, people are going out and stuff like that. Wednesday, people, it's a work night. Okay, let's chill, watch TV and, watch it's appointment TV. People know that at 8:00 on Wednesdays, you can watch AEW.
Yep.
I guarantee there's people that tune in on Wednesday forgetting that it was on Friday, and we're like, hey, where's
This
AEW?
guy. This
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. I think I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, why isn't AEW on? Oh, it's on Friday. It's like, okay, well, I'm not gonna be able to watch it Friday. Like, I have something else going on. So yeah, I mean, just a change in, the date, that's gonna affect your ratings too, 100%.
Well, I'm a little disappointed that it did move to Friday, honestly, because I kind of like that fact that it was during a Wednesday. It was the hump. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not going out on a Wednesday night. If anything, I'm going to want to be entertained on a Wednesday night. I'm going to want to watch wrestling on. I actually, most of the time, catch up on a lot of wrestling on Wednesday. You know what I mean? So the fact that it's Friday kind of sucks, because you know what? I'm trying to, like, for instance, last week I was traveling home, so I missed it. I missed it all. So it's like one of those things where I feel like I don't necessarily know if that's the right thing for them, even though it doesn't probably matter in my opinion. But my point is that, like, I think I would love to see the demographics, that are watching AEW versus WWE. And I bet you we would see a lot more people in that kind of like 21 to 40 watching AEW. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, WWE, when I think about it, it's like it's guys my age, you know what I mean? And young kids, like but now my 9-year-old wants to watch AEW because Jungle Boy's on there, and Will Hobbs is there, and a couple other guys that he can kind of relate to, you know what I mean? But I think that I would love to see the demographic, and if that, maybe that's the reason why, not necessarily because it's going against SmackDown. Because demographic would be, like you said, would be out fucking partying. If I partied, that's where I'd be. Fuck being at home watching wrestling.
Yeah.
I want to know from people in the chat room who are watching, does the night of wrestling matter? Because for me, and I think D-Mac hit it on the head, if a wrestling show is on Thursday or Friday, I'm more apt to watch it Saturday morning or Saturday night than I am to make sure I watch it live. And if it's on a Monday or a Wednesday, I'm more apt to watch it live because I've got nothing going on, or I have my daughter that night. That I think D-Mac hit it right on the head there.
Well, here's the whole thing too, right? Which I love the AEW formula, whether they did it on purpose or whatever, and then they added the Monday. So even though Monday Night Raw sucks, we all know that, right? Like SmackDown's at least got a show, right, to compete with AEW. But the fact that they did Dark, and then they did whatever the new one, like they Monday night, Tuesday night, and then into Wednesdays like their main event. So they got the beginning of the week, and by Wednesday, like that's like anybody else, like getting into Thursday, Friday, you got stuff to do, or the weekend, you're more planned to that. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, I think if they stay in that realm, because that's why being the elite, they throw it out on a Monday. So the fact that they captured exactly what went on at the event and they broadcast it into their programming was beautiful. Same with Sammy Guevara, releases it on Tuesday. With Ethan Page, releases his on Tuesday. So it gets you in that AEW whole flow, and then the payoff's Wednesday, and you know what I'm saying? Then you're good for that week, and it makes sort of more sense to that. It just shows maybe the fact of how they're growing, right? They're adding different things, and then it's got to be by not because they're trying to dominate, but because there's more requests for it.
Well, if you look at just one more thing on the ratings, if you look at the ratings, and Lars touched on it, he's like, who watches WWE? We have older people and really young people. So Friday works great for them. I mean, young people, like really young people, aren't going on Friday. Either are really old people. When it comes to AEW, it's different because their demographic is going out. But you have to look at the future. All right, in a few years from now, WWE is going to have those young kids. Now they're going to be teenagers, a little bit older, and they'll be loyal to WWE just like all of us were. Right, we were all Hulkamaniacs and stuff like that, and they hooked us in. That's what WWE is doing right now. They're projecting for their future. So I mean, they're doing it right. I think. Like that's just me.
Well, just for the record, I was a King Kong Bundy.
Okay. Well, I figure speech.
You know what I mean?
I love Bundy, man. He's awesome. And an awesome person too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I never got a chance to meet him. I mean, he was always one of my favorite wrestlers.
Yeah.
But to your point though, Pete, somebody had mentioned a comment, because of the NBA, and there's one that I wanted to mention and I forgot to, because they're moving to the Superstation.
Jason Major, I believe, was the guy who put it out there.
Yes.
They're moving to TBS, right?
Yeah, they're moving to TBS, which, and I think we mentioned it on a few shows ago when it was sort of news. So, and another thing I wanted to comment on is the Saturday morning wrestling, because like sometimes I get up and it's a Saturday and I want to turn it on, and I do have saved shows, and that's because I miss the Saturday morning wrestling. I remember the whole Saturday used to be wrestling. It's in California, you would have superstars, not superstars, was it?
It was superstars.
Yeah, and then you had obviously Glow came on like around 1, and then I had a Polynesian Pacific Championship Wrestling because on Channel 26 here, and then you had Glow up until about the World Championship Wrestling, and then you would have Bill Watts's thing around 11 o'clock at night. We would get it, and they'd always leave you on a cliffhanger. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I missed the whole Saturday wrestling thing, but anyways, I digress.
And by the way, Jason did say early in the pandemic on a Friday night he wouldn't have cared, but now it's not the best because life is opening back up. I mean, that's just the way the thing goes. And we had an earlier question that we didn't address that we should touch on, and the question was something along the lines of, do you think AEW would fare well if it went up against SmackDown on Friday night? And I don't think so. I don't think either one would win that war versus going to restaurants, sporting events, concerts, anything like that anymore. I think now in this post-pandemic world, going out is going to be the new cool, is going to be the new Friday, Saturday, where everybody's like, we've done it for 20 years. I just want to stay home and relax. When you take it away from a year, everybody just wants to go out and enjoy life now. And I think that's going to hurt anything on a Friday, Saturday, maybe even Sunday.
I mean, for ratings, yes. For actually having a live like SmackDown or AEW, people are going to eat it up, right? So I mean, I know I'm already getting like independent bookings, and I haven't had an independent booking in very long because the pandemic, and people are already reaching out, and a lot of them are already like, "Hey, Petey, can you work this Friday? Hey, can you do this Saturday? Can we do a double shot?" And you do a seminar and stuff like that. So the world is opening back up, and it smells disaster for the ratings. I don't know how to end that.
Well, that's not a bad way. That was Steiner-esque.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to go for, but like very mild.
Listen, we want to wrap the show up and talk a little bit about Impact going forward with no fans at Slammiversary because, Pete, I'll be honest, I think this is going to hurt Impact going forward if they're the last show to allow fans in, especially since Slammiversary is their, SummerSlam?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That would be their second biggest pay-per-view. And especially since June, everybody is kind of opening back up, going back on tour. I'm worried because as much as we all love Impact, for me, this feels like a case of same old Impact.
Yeah.
Party.
I think when we film this and like leading up to Slammiversary and all that, like nobody yet, like WWE or Ring of Honor or maybe AEW, but like WWE didn't announce their like, hey, we're going to start touring again and live events. Ring of Honor hadn't announced it yet. So that's the one bad thing about filming so far in advance is like, we've already booked everything out and like, secured venues and all that kind of stuff and talent and travel, just everything. And then it's like, okay, we got this set in stone. Like, should we change it? And like going on the road with fans and stuff like that, that does cost more money. So yeah, I'm worried because it's, like you said, it's going to look like the same thing we've been doing for the past year. But, fingers crossed. You never know. I mean, there's still time before July 17th where it's like, hey, you know what? Actually, we're going to run this event here, but you can't wait too late because, you know, it's already like we're 7 weeks away. I mean, you got to start moving tickets if we're going to do a live show on Slammiversary. Man, it would be awesome, Dennis. It really would. Like if they'd announce tomorrow, like, hey, you know, we're going to be live fans, I'd be like, yes, like,
Lars?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it sucks, and that's all I can say.
It sucks to no fans.
Yeah.
I mean, the Impact is like literally the program that I base my wrestling around. That's my show, and then all other wrestling kind of goes around that. So, honestly, like if I were to go back to see a live event, you know, I've been to one independent event, and I go to a lot of independent wrestling. That's kind of really where my true passion is, to see those, you know, those types of shows live, and I try to support them. If they're within 150-mile radius of me, I'll be there, you know, if I can be, because I love independent wrestling. But if the one promotion I would want to see live before anybody else, any of the other, you know, bigger ones, it would be Impact. You know what I mean? And the fact that like they're sort of the last ones to come to the table, and I'll just end it with this: it sucks.
I think we could actually pull it off if. So the problem is we got, you know, Slammiversary on the 17th, then we have 2 days of TV tapings afterwards. So it'd be awesome. Like even if we did the live, like with fans at the pay-per-view, great. And then travel to wherever, even if it was in Nashville, but in an arena of some sort, even if we did closed set, like how we've been doing TV tapings after that, I think that'd be okay. I just think we need that big event to be out in front of fans.
Even if you guys open the doors to the first 150 fans or 200 fans or something, just to have bodies in there would be great. Even if you didn't sell tickets, like, look, Slammiversary, our biggest show, we want to get back. If you're in the Nashville area, come down and we'll try to get as many in as possible. Amazing way to get back to the fans. But I don't see Impact doing that. I think Impact is going to hold the line, and to their detriment going forward. I get the problem with the logistics of, and I think it would hurt Impact to go from Slammiversary. If any other pay-per-view would have been great, this wouldn't be an issue. But Slammiversary, their second biggest pay-per-view, and I don't know. And look, I like Impact. It sounds like I'm knocking them, but it sounds like it's almost a little bit of laziness where they go, well, we don't want to change the set to put 200 fans in just to have to work hard overnight to put it back to a studio setting. That's the way I'm viewing the situation.
Well, I think that's a shitty argument because, I mean, as we all watched when we were very young, WTBS, I mean, how many fans were in that place? Maybe 50.
Well, if you look at just a little bit of insight, if you look at our setup at like Skyway Studios, like there's nowhere to sell like concessions or anything like that. It's a closed studio. Like, I don't know.
Just bring them in. The fans would still come if there were no concession.
I know, but I think legally, I think you have to have them like be able to buy food and drink. I don't know. I'm not sure, but
I need to have a bathroom.
The bathroom.
I don't think we have a public bathroom because everything is like it's a closed set. There's offices, there's studios, all that kind of stuff. Like we would definitely, even if we went down the street to like, I don't know, the high school or whatever, like that it could be accommodated, but just in the studio itself, you can't. Like we would definitely have to move venues. That's for sure.
Right. Well, let us know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't see that happening, and I think that's going to be a bummer. So we got a great call the ODB food truck in for concessions.
Oh hell yeah! She lives in Nashville. Get her, concessions, and then hopefully she could bring porta potties with her too.
Oh, there you go.
I got it.
Hey,
I'm texting
Couple
Scott right now.
Pull Rancid out, fucking dude. Bob the trailer hitch, fucking. We'll have a whole other plan.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap this show up that we want to talk about that kind of was the week that was in wrestling?
Well, you know what? I want to say something. How excited I am to see fucking Petey Williams on TV all the time now. So,
man, thanks.
Can't wait to see him walking around the ring for an hour tomorrow.
Yeah. So, again, that is tomorrow. Today is Wednesday. So that big, man, they've been hyping that up.
Yeah.
The Iron Man match, first ever 1 hour Iron Man match on in Impact history. They've been showing it on social media, like all the half hour ones with like Joe versus Engel and AJ versus Daniels and the other ones. But this one, I mean, I've already spoke about it, and I can't talk highly enough about it, but it's a good match, man. Like those guys aren't like, like just, okay, we're going to work a headlock for 20 minutes for the first time to kill some time or whatever. Like, no, they go out there and they're going from minute number 1. And, it's a long time being out there for an hour, especially when you're not wrestling. And, it starts right at before the Impact, the BTI, so tune in, make sure it's right at 7:00, and then you'll see it. And, it's going to roll right into the beginning of Impact at 8. So it's going to be a good show.
Anything else, guys? All right. Well, look, before everybody promotes their stuff, I do want to say we are going to be doing more of these live shows without guests. It's just us talking about topics. I do think the next one, maybe we give out the code to some people and let them pop on the stream and talk to us personally. But that's only if you're following us on all of our social media. Just search Wrestling Perspective.
Who's screening the callers this time?
Oh, Jesus. That was such a debacle. Pete, were you there, Lars? No, you two.
I wasn't.
It was me, Kendall, and Dimitri and D-Mac. And we were like, hey, we're going to open up the stream. Whoever wants to come on and talk to us. And like the first guy comes on and he's twerking in his underwear.
Big fan of Rancid, Lars.
Yeah.
He's seen that move on a concert once. Great show.
Yeah. So I think we'd like to do more fan stuff. So that's what we're going to try to do. One show a week with a guest, one show a week without, where we just talk, topic stuff with you guys, the fans, because we've all said we love hanging out with you guys, the fans, and we're so glad that on a late night Tuesday night, you guys are making time to watch us be idiots. But D-Mac, what do you have going on?
Wait, Tuesday or Wednesday?
It doesn't matter what day it is.
Wouldn't it be great if we were not really live and we fooled everybody? We actually pre-recorded this on Monday.
Where are we?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, yesterday, today.
D-Mac, where can people find you? What do you got going?
Oh, no matter what day it is, as long as it's a weekday, 3 to 5, Woodward Sports Network. I'm on the hook. Fridays, I got the WJR show, and you can always find me on Darren McCarty 4 on Twitter.
Pete?
Yeah, you can find me on here, obviously, all of our platforms for Wrestling Perspective, and also on Twitter, Instagram, at IPDWilliams.
Lars, what do you got, buddy? I know you're going on tour. We're excited. Coming to Detroit. We're going to hang out.
Yeah.
Can you say it with a little more excitement? Like, yeah, I get to hang out with you guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There, Lars, don't worry.
Rockstar lifestyle.
Stoked to see my Detroit family, that's for sure. So two by the way of Canada.
Yeah.
So what was your question?
What do you got?
Promoting.
Schedule.
Calling my name right now, and I've been hanging out with you guys for the last hour when that thing's ready to be eaten. So that's what I got going on right now. But honestly, Lars Fredrickson, blue check, Instagram, also on Facebook. I'm never really on it, but it's there if you want to see it. Obviously, the Wrestling Perspective podcast. You'll see me there as well. And then on Twitter, I'm at RootsRadicals01. And hopefully I'll be in a city near you soon.
All things Rancid. Go look them up. Listen to their music. We absolutely love them here. And like I said, anywhere you're on social media, look up Wrestling Perspective. Our DMs are always open if you have a question or anything like that. We try to be the most fan-friendly podcast out there with as many celebrities as we have on here. We see a lot of wrestling podcasts that don't open up to the fans and they have nobody on it, but that's not us and what we want to do. So enjoy the rest of your night, subscribe, rate, do all that stuff. Tell your friends. That's the biggest thing that we want you guys to do on the podcast. Guys, we'll see you again later this week, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah. Deuces.